Could going through probate leave you broke? Watch this before it's too late. Hello everyone, my name is Carolyn Castillo with Probate Property Angels, where we believe your inheritance is a blessing and shouldn't be a burden. Probate can be a financial minefield. What seems like a simple inheritance can quickly turn into an overwhelming burden. In this video, I'm going to be breaking down the hidden costs, the unexpected challenges, and the true financial risk of going through probate. So whether you're an executor or whether you're an heir, understanding what are the pitfalls is essential for yourself to protect your family's legacy. So let's go ahead and dive in. So the first thing we must talk about, that probate is a legal process, which equals time and money. The cost of probate relatively is not crazy expensive. Probate cases, depending on what type of administration you file, can be from anywhere from $2,500 and in some cases up to $10,000. Now, in my experience, I've actually been on cases that have lasted over 3 years going through probate to the tune of $60,000 in attorney and court fees, okay? So it depends on the complications that your case has will determine how much it costs to actually go through probate. Now, those are some of the known costs. How much it is to file, how much it is for attorney representation. Those are typically not the ones that hit you with the hardest blow. The ones that get you are the unexpected expenses that the estate now has. So when you inherit a property, real estate happens to be one of the biggest expenses that an estate has to maintain. Now, when you're going through probate, it's not always that the executors have access to the deceased's money. If you don't have access to the deceased's money, then how are you supposed to pay for everything? How are you supposed to keep up with the lawn? How are you supposed to make the mortgage payments? How are you supposed to pay for the property insurance? What about the FP&L bill, the utility bill, the water bill, the HOA payment, the real estate taxes? I mean, it's so expensive keeping up with a property. On top of you having this estate, guess what? You have your own house, your own bills, your own responsibilities that you have to keep up with. What I see a lot of executors doing is taking on these costs for themselves. Now, at the beginning, it's all, fun and dandy when they first file probate and they're paying for this and they're paying for that and they're paying for this, but they don't realize how long this might actually take. What complications might actually pop up, right? And so when you go into this, you start paying for this, paying for that, I'm paying for this. Next thing you know, I've seen executors be in it from their own money as close to $10,000, $20,000, $50,000 because they're paying stuff from their own pocket, because in their mind, they're going to be getting it back once the probate is closed and once the estate is settled. But what happens in the meantime is that they're basically bleeding their accounts. And in probate, there's a lot of things that can go wrong. There's a lot of unexpected complications that can come up and just things that you're not anticipating. Some of those hidden costs are personal loans. It happens actually quite often where an heir will become the executor and all of a sudden they'll get a phone call from someone and say, oh, your family member owed me money. I lent them, $20,000 or whatnot. IRS bills. Again, when somebody passes away, we don't necessarily share our intimate financial situations with our family, right? So you're probably, not telling your family that you're behind on your tax bill, that you're borrowing money from somebody. There's even been situations that I've had where we've done a lien search on a property and it came up that the heir had not paid for a construction project that was done at the property, and now that contractor has a lien on the property for $15,000. Well, guess what? You were not anticipating that. You were not anticipating that you were going to have to pay a $50,000 IRS bill. You were not anticipating having to pay a personal loan of somebody that owed money to the deceased, right? And then there's also the property repairs. So when we've discussed in previous videos on the property conditions, you inherit a property and the property was not ready to be sold. It was not prepared to be sold. So you can find yourself going out of pocket to clean up the house, clear out the house, covering the utility bills. So literally in a banana split, before you know it, you can be out thousands, if not tens of thousands of dollars maintaining an estate. Now, if you have any questions about what you should be spending and investing in your own personal money in this estate, drop a comment in this video and I would love to respond to you as soon as possible to give you some feedback on if you're overspending or if what you're spending is within reason. Now, one of the most important things that I always instruct executors to do, the most important thing when you become an executor is to determine what is the total value of the estate, okay? When you determine what the total value of the estate is, then you're going to be able to look at the assets, look at the liabilities, do the math, and then you can decide. Because what if you're looking at a property that you have inherited, okay? Zillow's saying the property is worth $500,000. There's a mortgage on the property for $300,000. So you're thinking, cha-ching, I'm gonna get a $200,000 inheritance from this property, right? So you're thinking 200 grand is coming back to me, so I'm gonna start paying for all of this stuff that the property needs. I'm paying for the taxes, I'm paying for the insurance, I'm paying for the repairs, right? Because you're anticipating to get this value of the property. Then you meet with a realtor, you meet with a real estate professional. If you were to meet with someone like myself, I'm gonna do a CMA for you. I'm gonna go walk the property with you. I'm gonna give you an evaluation of what it's gonna cost to whip the place in shape, okay? And then when you do business with me, our team actually will do all of those repair costs and all of that property preparation that you don't have to pay any money up front. So if you land with me, you guys get it, the royal treatment, okay? One of the other things we do at our company is before we even list the property for sale, we do a title search and we do a lien search on the property. Why is this important? Why it's important is you are selling a deceased person's property. As well as you think you know somebody, as well as you think you know your mom, you may not realize that your mom had taken out a HELOC on the house because she needed some extra money to cover her bills and she didn't want to burden the family with that, right? When we do the title commitment, it's going to come back and show this loan has to be paid, this loan has to be paid, there's an IRS lien on the property, there's a contractor lien on the property, right? We're going to find out all this information and then we're going to be able to give it to the heir and say, okay, realistically, Zillow says your property's worth $500,000, but we're actually in a recession right now and the property values have decreased and your neighbor just sold the same exact house for $450,000. By the way, there's also a HELOC that you didn't tell me about for $30,000, and there's this other, right? So all of a sudden, you're starting to look at everything and you're saying, oh my gosh, I've already invested $20,000 into the estate, and now it looks like I'm pretty much only going to be netting about $40,000. I'll be lucky if I just get my money out. Guys, I have seen this happen, okay? And what I always instruct my executors and my heirs is I say, do not pay for the estate's bills. It is not your financial responsibility to cover the expenses of your loved one's deceased, okay? What I recommend is get out as fast as possible and cut the bleeding as fast as possible. So when it comes to the real estate, that's typically the biggest expense that the estate is going to have. If you're inheriting 401k account, it's not costing you money to keep that every month. If you're inheriting a life insurance policy, a bank account, that's not every month. You're not having to pay money to keep that value up. But with real estate, If you don't pay for the bills, if it goes into foreclosure, if you don't sell the property, you can end up either A, going broke, or B, end up being with a distressed property. So if this rings a bell to you, if this rings a tune to you, I would like the opportunity to have a free consultation with you that I can discuss your family specific case. What is the true value of your inheritance and how can we get you out as quick as possible? Visit our website, www.probatepropertyangels, and book your free consultation today.